I alone can fix it. That signature line from 2016 pretty much sums up Donald Trump's approach to the presidency. And this week he pushed it about as far as it can go, with a dizzying series of impulsive moves on everything from buying Greenland to background checks on guns. Tax cuts on and off the table, then back on again. Attacks on China and the Fed that sent the stock market into a tailspin and threatened the strong economy that's been his best selling point for re-election. And as we come on the air this morning, a new political threat, a potential challenge from one of his own. Conservative firebrand Joe Walsh, a Tea Party congressman, now a talk radio host, and no stranger to controversy and incendiary rhetoric. Once a staunch defender of President Trump, he appeared on CNN this week and said this.
If Republicans, John, stay silent in the face of this guy, I don't think the country will ever forgive the Republican Party, but forget about the Republican Party. If this guy gets 4 more years, we're in real trouble.
And Joe Walsh joins us now. Good morning.
Hey, George. Good to be with you.
Have you reached a decision?
Yes, and it's great to be with you. I'm going to run for president, and I'm happy to be on your show announcing my candidacy. George, no surprise, we've got a guy in the White House who's unfit, completely unfit, to be president. And it stuns me that nobody stepped up, nobody in the Republican Party stepped up, because I'll tell you what, George, everybody believes in the Republican Party, everybody believes that he's unfit. He lies every time he opens his mouth.
You say that. You say everybody believes he's unfit, but one of the things the White House points to, and the president points to often, is just about every poll shows more than 80% support for the president among Republicans.
They don't have an alternative. I'll tell you what, George, and look, I'm running because he's unfit. Somebody needs to step up, and there needs to be an alternative. The country is sick of this guy's tantrum. He's a child. Again, the litany, he lies every time he opens his mouth. Look at what's happened this week. The president of the United States is tweeting us into a recession. I can tell you, George, that most of my former colleagues up on the Hill, they agree privately with everything I'm saying.
But then how do you explain why they stand behind him so strongly?
Because they're scared to death. Look, George, this isn't easy to do. I just sat down with you and said, I'm going to run for president. I'm going to challenge this guy. I'm opening up my life to tweets and attacks. Everything I've said and tweeted now, Trump's going to go after, and his bullies are going to go after.
You ready for it?
Yes, I'm ready for it. Republicans are scared to death of that. Here's what I think most of my former colleagues believe. They think Trump's going to lose in November, and they want him to lose in November. And then they think they're done with him and everything can go back to normal.
Then they lose the courts, they lose the Supreme Court, they lose the next vacancy, they lose taxes. That's the argument the president has been making.
They want Trump gone. They're just afraid to say that he's unfit. Look at this week. If you privately polled every Republican member of Congress, the president of the United States ordered private companies to not do business with China. The president of the United States said our Fed chair is as big of an enemy as China. Most Republican voters are tired of the drama. They're tired of his BS. George, I believe this. Look,
you're on talk radio every day. You're on in the afternoon in Chicago. When you speak like this, what do you hear from your listeners? Support, correct?
I hear support for the president. It's difficult to be a critic of the president's in conservative talk radio, but I hear real ambivalence as well. And I hear often, George, what you just said at the beginning. I don't like him, and I wish he wouldn't tweet, and I wish he would keep his mouth quiet, but we're getting some good things done. But really, what are we getting done? And when I point out to those people who listen to me on conservative talk radio that we haven't built 1 foot of a wall, that this president who said, I'm going to eliminate the debt in 8 years, has increased the debt at a faster clip than Obama. But, George, this is not about issues. I would not be even thinking about primarying this president if I was upset with his position on the debt or the deficit.
There actually is another challenger to President Trump, as you know from inside the party, William Weld. And he had a tweet this week where he said this. He said, Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to our country, to the globe, and to himself. And this is what got everybody's attention. Hashtag America deserves better. Hashtag 25th Amendment. You talk about the president being unfit. Should the 25th Amendment be invoked?
It should be looked at. George, we've never had a situation like this. You can't believe a word he says. And again, I don't care your politics, that should concern you. He's nuts. He's erratic. He's cruel. He stokes bigotry. He's incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. George, he's a narcissist. Everything he cares about, the only thing he cares about is Trump. He doesn't give a damn about America. He doesn't care about the border. You and I talked before I came on air. He lost me for certain at Helsinki. When the
press conference with Putin.
Yeah, when the president of the United States stood in front of the world and said, I stand with that guy and not my own people, that's disloyal. That's un-American. His supporters, I think, are tired of this. Our campaign slogan, George, is be brave. Be brave. This is not a difficult thing for me to do. I'm opening up my life. But the bet that my campaign is making, and I'm going to pound Trump every single day, he's a bully and he's a coward, and somebody has to call him out. And I cannot believe nobody in our party's calling him out. But the bet, George, of my campaign is that there are a lot of Republicans who feel like I do. They're afraid to come forward.
You said you want to make the case against the president. The question is, are you the best messenger? You said you want to make a moral case against the president. Here's what the Washington Examiner, conservative newspaper, said in response to your potential candidacy this week. There's the matter of his history of being Trumpier than Trump. He's made a living on peddling the same sort of demagoguery, conspiracy mongering, and right-wing bomb throwing for which he now condemns the president. Your response?
I helped create Trump. And George, that's not an easy thing to say. Look, we were divided before Trump. I went to Washington 8 years ago. The part of the Tea Party class wanted to shake Washington up. I got involved in the battles, and there were plenty of times where I went beyond the policy and the idea differences, and I got personal and I got hateful. I said some ugly things about President Obama that I regret, and it's difficult, but I think that helped create Trump. And I feel responsible for that.
You did provide aid and comfort for the kinds of things he was saying. You mentioned Obama. You called President Obama Muslim, an enemy, a traitor, and you often spoke out on racial themes. I want to show a couple of tweets that you had right there. Number one, we lowered the bar for Obama. He was held to a lower standard because he was black. That was just in 2017. And then a few months after that, not just President Obama, Senator Kamala Harris said something really dumb. Meh. If you're black and a woman, you can say dumb things. Lowered the bar. That is kind of textbook racism and sexism.
Well, again, the beauty of what President Trump has done is, George, he's made me reflect on some of the things I've said in the past. I had strong policy disagreements with Barack Obama, and too often I let those policy disagreements get personal.
Did you really believe he's a Muslim?
God, no, and I've apologized for that. And that's not an easy thing to do, not at all. But think about the contrast, George. Again, I'm burying my soul with you right now on national TV. We have a guy in the White House who's never apologized for anything he's done or said. I think it's a weakness not to apologize. I helped create Trump. There's no doubt about that. The personal, ugly politics, I regret that, and I'm sorry for that. And now we've got a guy in the White House, George, that's all he does. Understand, I walk around with this piece of paper every day, George. It's got all of Trump's lies on one side, mostly updated, and then everything that he does that's wrong. I feel responsible for this, but I'm a conservative, and I think there's a decent chance to present to Republican voters a conservative.
What is the conservative case? Set aside the personal differences you have with President Trump. What is the conservative case for why President Trump should be replaced?
He's incompetent. He has no freaking clue what he's doing. He said he was going to build a wall, George. We haven't built a foot of the wall. He said Mexico was going to pay for it. We haven't. He told us trade wars were easy. Tell that to American farmers right now. Tell that to American consumers. President Trump said, I will eliminate the debt in 8 years. He's increased it faster than Barack Obama
With
did.
the help of a Republican Senate.
Exactly.
And a Republican House.
Republicans and Democrats, neither one give a damn about the debt and the deficits, but this is on Trump. He said, I'll eliminate the debt. He hasn't governed as a conservative. He's not competent. He doesn't know what he's doing. But, George, the bigger case is this. He's not capable of being decent. He's cruel. He's bigoted, and he's a narcissist. Everything is about him.
So when you talk to your listeners on radio, and you talk in these personal terms about President Trump, do they excuse it? Do they argue with you? Do they say it doesn't matter?
They say, but Joe, the Democrats are socialist. I don't like him. I don't like what he says. I don't like what he does, but the Democrats are socialist. And I don't think that's good enough. I'm not doing this to save the Republican Party. I'm doing this, George, because I think the country can survive Trump's 4-year tantrum. But you give this guy another 4 years in the White House. Right now, he is, George, literally tweeting us into a recession. He'll tweet us into war.
But as you know, presidents who face a serious primary challenge, Jimmy Carter from Ted Kennedy, George H.W. Bush from Pat Buchanan, hurt him badly in New Hampshire. It tends to weaken them. They tend to lose. Are you prepared to take responsibility if you do well in this for helping elect a Democrat that some of your viewers and listeners will say, oh, socialist?
It doesn't matter. Absolutely. I'm going to do whatever I can. I don't want him to win. The country cannot afford to have him win. If I'm not successful, I'm not voting for him. I'd rather get back to the place, George, where I'm sitting down next to a Democrat member of Congress and we're arguing about capitalism and socialism. We're arguing about ideas. But instead, we're talking about a child in the White House who tweets ugly insults at average Americans every day. We're tired of that. I want to get away from that. I want to get back to the policy.
William Weld has been out there for months, not making much of an impact. How can you run a real campaign? Where's the money going to come from? Where are you going to focus?
We're going to focus on Iowa and New Hampshire. We're going to be on TV as much as we can. Again, be brave is our campaign slogan. I believe there are people out there dying to come out, stick their necks out, and say publicly what they believe privately, that this guy is unfit, he's indecent, he's setting a horrible example for millions and millions of American children every day. I think this thing, George, will catch on like wildfire.
And if you're wrong?
If I'm wrong, it was the right fight, because somebody had to do this. Again, George, we have somebody in the White House who's not fit to be president. Everybody knows that.
Joe Walsh, thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, George.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.